have lots of random liquor and bitters and mixers just sitting around my apartment, and I never know what interesting cocktails I could make with them. So today we're going to design an interface for a mobile app that lets you come up with interesting cocktail ideas based on a screenshot of all the random crap that you just have in your apartment. But we're gonna do things a little differently this time. I recently had one of my subscribers reach out and say, hey, can we see what it actually looks like when you're doing customer discovery behind the scenes instead of just redesigning something that already exists? So I have my first ever Demystifying Design client who's gonna brief me on this project, and then we're just gonna get going from there. Hey there, unknown customer I've never met before.
Hello.
I heard that you have a app that you're building and you need some design help.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. I am trying to build a sort of bartending application.
Tell me a little more. What are you hoping that users will be able to achieve with your app?
My goal is to create an app where you can take a picture of your bar cart and the app will pull from the image what type of liquor and bitters or whatever from your bar cart, and then give you a list of different cocktails you can make from your bar cart. So it's kind of like a virtual bartender of sort.
Okay, so I've got first user story here. Pretty straightforward. As a user, I would like to be able to take a picture of my bar cart and know what cocktails I can easily make with those ingredients. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else, that specific features that you want to enable on the app, or is that pretty much just it?
I think that's kind of my initial goal, is to create that. It'd be nice to add additional features like being able to save cocktails that you've made. I'd like to have some sort of place to store images that you've uploaded.
Okay, I like that. So in addition to the main story, you also want to give people a way to save cocktails for future use, maybe save some photos because their bar cart doesn't really change very often and they just want to keep coming back. Regarding saving photos, right? Do you think they might want to just save the recipes instead? I mean, there's really no need to look at the photo again, right? If it hasn't changed, if we can save the recipes.
Right, yeah, I think maybe some sort of essentially like a virtual recipe book of just saving or starring your favorites, or some way to save favorite recipes, I think would be.
And are you expecting that users will use this on their phone exclusively, or?
I think ideally it would be best as a mobile application, but I would like to have a desktop version as well.
Okay. Well, I think for the purposes of this exercise, we're only going to do the phone. You're not paying me nearly as enough for two different UIs.
Right. Yeah.
But do you have a style preference that you want for this? Are you feeling like more minimal, something fancy?
I have a preference towards just very minimal, sleek looking. I want something very clean, simple, easy to use. So yeah, preference for very minimal, clean design.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, unknown client of unknown origin. I'm going to get started right away.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great. Now that we've got all that information from our lovely mystery client, I've put together a simple style guide here. We're using Just as the font because it's kind of like a friendly, fun font while still being very clean. And then, of course, here's all the user stories that we distilled from our conversation. And let's just jump right into the design. Since this is a brand new project, we're starting out with a simple logo design. Now, I'm actually a terrible graphic designer. This logo is extremely bad. Please don't judge me for it. I'm just going to skip to the end so you can laugh at it, and then we'll just pretend like I didn't make this and move on. I guess it's not that bad, but I definitely recommend this client finds a better logo designer first. Moving on to the actual mobile app that we're designing here, I've designed probably about 50 mobile navigations on the channel now. I'm not going to make you guys sit through another one. The treatment here is going to be very similar to pretty much every other mobile app navigation here, so we'll just skip through that. building out the individual cocktail cards was a fun experience. I wanted to make sure that people would immediately be able to identify the cocktail, and then from there, they would be able to see the primary ingredient followed by all of the secondary mixers and extra ingredients. I also wanted to let users simply just go ahead and bookmark an individual cocktail if they wanted to refer to it later. Also needed some way to quickly send the signal to the user that they had all of the ingredients necessary for that cocktail, because that's kind of a special case, right? In situations where you're analyzing a picture of a bar cart to determine what ingredients are on hand, there's the situation where you have all of them, none of them, or just some of them. And the cocktails for which you have all the ingredients, they're the important ones because you know that you can immediately make that with what you have on hand. So adding some orange accent color here to send a signal to the user that something that requires their attention has happened. Now, of course, we can't just expect a user to trust that we know that they have all the ingredients. We need some way for the user to be able to audit what the AI has done. So having this expandable list of ingredients with a checkbox that specifies whether that was detected or not is a good way to solve that problem. So as a user, when I'm going through the list of returned cocktails, I can just expand this list and say, oh yeah, cool, we do have Campari or we do have bitters. So we can throw that cocktail together ASAP. Now, empty space isn't necessarily a bad thing, but too much of it can make the interface seem unbalanced if you don't have anything counterweighting any saturated content on the other side. Here I'm trying to figure out what to put to the right of the logo, and I'm toying with the idea of doing a light mode and dark mode, but ultimately I decide this doesn't make sense because toggling between light mode and dark mode is something you're really only going to want to do once. So I ended up replacing this completely with a call to action to add a new recipe to the list, and then moving the search itself down into the title container. Now, since there's several contexts in which you might want to view recipes, I wanted to implement this secondary navigation for users where they can switch that context to the one that makes the most sense. Either they look at their most recent scan, everything that the AI found in their most recent photo, or they only look at those recipes that have been bookmarked or recommended by our yet-to-be-built algorithm. This horizontal secondary navigation is a pretty commonly established heuristic for mobile interfaces. People know how this works, so it felt like a safe bet for this UI. And I've shared this before on the channel, but whenever you're in a situation where you have to use unique product imagery, but you don't really get to control what the colors look like on that particular image, setting them within a slightly gray background gives the illusion that you're still treating the image with care. So if I was to just paste this into the card without that background, it would look like I just threw an image in there. But if I throw it inside that gray box, it looks like the product is in some sort of light box, and it looks a lot more professional and modern. So feel free to just steal that if you ever have to work with unique product imagery. Now, since there's quite a lot of ways for users to add recipes to the list, it made sense to show those options in a modal after the user opts to add a new recipe. They can either upload a photo from their device, use their camera, or add one manually. And whenever you're working with a problem that is solved in many different ways, a modal like this on mobile often just does the trick. Now you'll notice that I'm wearing a new shirt. I had to take a break and come back to this the day after because I was just getting a little bit too into the weeds, and sometimes a little bit of sleep just helps to reset the mind. And the first thing I'm trying here is something a little cheeky where I'm floating the take a picture button in the middle of the navigation. And I want to get fancy with this because I realized that taking the photo is really the main feature of the app, right? The core value proposition is take a picture of your bar cart, we'll show you recipes. So we're emphasizing it, and the resulting UI is where I just float it off to the right, so it's very easy to access in addition to the standard navigation. Skipping ahead a little bit here because my footage got corrupted, sadly, but as you can see, when a user wants to take a picture of their bar cart, we by default switch the device into landscape mode, and then we give them certain controls to turn on their flash, take the photo, or just upload an image manually if they've changed their mind. This little frame in the middle here is a nice way to help the user figure out exactly how to center everything, and then eventually we end up adding some text to give them a hint as to what to do next, so they're not just left confused when they're presented with a full screen experience of their camera. And now that we've had the user take a picture of their bar cart, the next logical step in that flow is to show them the results of everything that we found in that bar cart, as well as all of the potential cocktails they can make with those ingredients. So we're showing a list of all of the scans that a user has completed in the past, as well as building out an interface for individual scans where we can just look at the results of any past scan and see all the cocktails found in that particular picture. Now that we're creating the My Scans list here, we're going to use a very similar layout to the layout that we used when we displayed all the recipes. Really basic cards with some images to jog the user's memory as to what bar cart that was a picture of, as well as a title and some metadata. Nothing too crazy. All right, so after 2 grueling days of designing this, I think we're at a place where we can leave this for now, at least for the video. But now we're able to do everything that was in the brief for this project. All the user stories have been sorted, and it has a nice modern aesthetic as well. So I think it's great, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. We need to touch base with our client and see what she thinks. So, client, we have the finished design for you. Just gonna walk you through it first, and then you can tell me whether or not you hate it. So here we've got all of the cocktails listed out in a simple little list. Users can scroll through and click on them to see what ingredients were either detected or just listed as available manually. They can bookmark them if they want. Maybe they just have a series of cocktails that are their favorite and they want to refer to them whenever they want. They can also switch contexts here and swap between whether or not they only want to look at bookmarked cocktails, recommended, or, you know, ones that were specifically found in the most recent scan. Speaking of scans, when you click the little photo button down here, it switches into a horizontal view, and then we're presented with, or the user is prompted to take a photo of their bar, then reminded to try and get as many labels in as they can, and then when they click to take the photo and confirm it, obviously there'll be a little delay while all the back-end magic works, but then you're presented with a picture. You can see what we found by just scrolling down to the end or clicking this button, and then you see all of the cocktails that we found specifically in this scan. Also wanted to give users a way to just add things manually if they wanted by clicking the little plus sign up here. They either take a photo, add an image for device, or they can just type it in if they have something in their bar that they weren't able to find in an image. So yeah, give me your thoughts, just straight off the dome.
Yeah, this is This is great. This is a really great rendering of ideas I had, but I didn't know how they would look in an application. I like the bookmark, how you can just bookmark them in the list and filter by bookmark or just your last scan. Yeah, overall, I'm really pleased with it. I think the flow of everything makes a lot of sense. It looks very clean and simple.
Very welcome. Thank you for being the first featured client on the fabulous Demystifying Design channel.
Oh, I'm honored.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.